The ANC will finally announce its newly elected NEC members later this morning, and the International Finance Corporation plans to issue local currency bonds in 10 African markets from next year. Ambusisiwa Khatebe with the latest news updates. The ANC will finally announce its newly elected National Executive Committee members later this morning. The 80-member team is expected to include both senior members and junior members, such as Joel Netshichenze and Lindiwe Sisulu, as well as Buti Manamela and Pule Mabe. Delegates are also expected to get a conference declaration, followed by President Jacob Zuma's closing address. SABC senior political correspondent Ntebo Mokobo has the story.
The ANC will for the first time implement its 50-50 gender quota rule at its 2007 elective conference in Polokwane. The ruling party adopted a gender parity rule to accommodate equal number of men and women in the organization's all-important organ. To achieve this would mean that some men will not make it to the NEC, even if they get more votes than women. A good number of women were nominated, including MKM VS Ayanda Tlotlo, former ANC Youth League Secretary General Vuyiswa Tulelo, and the League's current spokesperson Magdalene Munsami. Again, adopted policy proposals will be read out at the end of the 5-day meeting. This will translate into government policies should the ANC win the 2014 elections. Ntebo Mokobo for SABC in Mangaung.
The ANC has acknowledged the failures of its much criticized cadre deployment policy. The National Elective Conference, which concludes today, reviewed the policy and found that members have been deployed to government positions without the required skills. The conference has resolved that all public representatives should have basic economic and public finance literacy. Gauteng Secretary David Makura is a member of the organizational renewal subcommittee.
We send councillors into municipalities who make major decisions on budgets, major allocative decisions, when in fact they have not been adequately prepared to understand the implication of those decisions. We can't afford that going forward.
National roads are expected to be congested from tomorrow as thousands of motorists embark on trips home and on holiday. The N3 from Gauteng to KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the N1 from Gauteng to Limpopo, are expected to be the most affected. The N3 toll concessions Andy Visser says they expect the numbers to peak between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. and again at lunchtime at Gauteng's De Hoek Plaza. Visser says high traffic volumes into KZN can be expected from early afternoon.
What we've seen the last weekend is probably what we'll typically see this coming weekend. It will probably peak at around 1,500 vehicles an hour at the peak of those busy periods. Nothing what one would expect like over an Easter weekend, but certainly pretty heavy traffic.
And lastly, the World Bank's private sector arm, the International Finance Corporation, plans to issue local currency bonds in 10 African markets from next year. This is to build capital in one of the world's fastest growing regions. The group says it's looking at Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Zambia, Rwanda, Namibia, Botswana, Uganda and Kenya, amongst others. Africa is growing on average at 5 to 6% a year and is eager to develop transport and power infrastructure. Catch the latest news on the hour on SABC radio stations and on NewsBreak Option 1.